So the dashboard we are making is on a mom and a pop store that sells mouth refreshments, soft drinks and tobacco based products. Due to its strategic location, there is high volumes day in and day out. As the volumes are high, there is a lot of sales happening throughout the day. Due to lack of manpower and digitization in the store doesn't have any records of how many units are sold and how much revenue is earned from the various products and the product categories.
Our shopkeeper is facing problem with maximizing the profit. Now he knows in what quantity stock the product and what is his least selling product.
In this video, we will be showing our transaction table where we will be using data validation and VLOOKUP function and calculate the revenue and profit of each product.
We will start with the database. The database has all the requisite information of raw data of all the products that are sold by our company. These are the products, their category, followed by the rates and margin of each product. In total, this shop sells 49 products. We have extended these information in our transaction table. In this transaction table, the first 4 columns are straight from the database. In addition to that, we have the weeks, dates, sales, revenue, and profit. The revenue has been calculated using the formula rate into sales, and profit has been calculated using the formula margin into sales. In this first column, we have done a data validation. This will allow the table to be fairly dynamic. Using data validation, here we have all these list of products. The data validation has been taken from the database. The products has been used as list in the data validation and brought into the transaction table.
With respect to the data validation, we have used a VLOOKUP to get the category. VLOOKUP has been directly linked to the database. The rate and margin has also been taken using the VLOOKUP functions from the database. There is a data validation in the weeks as well, and the dates are mentioned. Suppose the person wants to enter the data for the product 7up. As he selects 7up, the category shows soft drinks. The rate and the respective margin shows. Next, as we enter the number of sales, let's say 10, the revenue and profit automatically gets calculated. This process can be done on a daily basis. We can add the values and we can get the informations. This will help the shop owner in understanding the sales and revenue of all the products in the store. The transaction table is further linked to the other table.
I'm Karthik from Group 6, and this will summarize all the data that's collected in the transactions and the database. Now, we will use functions like pivot tables, sum ifs, if functions, etc. And I will walk you through all the functions and make it as simple as possible to understand. So let's dive in. Okay, let's go straight to the dashboard. Now the dashboard is indicating 3 different charts with 3 different transactions. So the first one being sales and revenue by category, second being top 5 sales by product, the third one being the weekly sales and revenue and profit. Now I'm going to start with this specific chart. Now to track this, we have created a scroll bar. A scroll bar is something that you can get from the developer tab. In the insert function, you select the scroll bar and you create a scroll bar like this. Now, since I've already created a scroll bar, I'll walk you through this. You right click and go to format control. You will notice certain values here. The minimum value being 1, the maximum value being 5, and incrementally going by just a value of 1. Now you need to link a cell so that the scroll bar can move in reference to that. And you can notice that I selected this as a reference. Now, over here, automatically you will get 1 as a value. Now in order to get the data table for the scroll bar, we first need to get the table on top. Now over here for weeks, I've taken a data validation with the list coming from here. The next column has total sales. The total sales has sum if function. The sum if function is fairly self-explanatory because there are only 3 criteria required here. One is range, the criteria, and sum range. So for total sales, I want this range to come from the transactions tables. In this table, I want a column called week. So we just type transactions, or instead of typing, we can also go to transactions table and select the whole week column. Now after that, the criteria here is week 1. The reason being, we want the data of week 1 being reproduced over here. Now the range that you want to sum is the sales value, because it's total sales that we want. And the same thing applies here. We go to the transactions table and we select all the sales values from here. On selecting enter, we get the value of 1405 for week 1. Now the same thing can be done for total profit and total revenue. It's the same formula. The only thing that changes is the column. Okay. So in order to create the second table, which is linked to the scroll bar, we need to return values present in this table over here. Now how does that happen? If you notice, we have a function called offset, and that is exactly what is used to return values from another table. So in order to return the values, we will need a reference. So let's say for the first column for week, we want all the values of these from this table to be returned over here. So we select week as a reference, the cell, and then we log the cell using function F4. Now over here we want the values to change with respect to the rows, and that's why we select this specific cell as a row. The reason being, in this specific cell we have 1 as the number. What does that mean? When we put 1 as a specific row over here, it returns a value which is one place away from the reference. And we put column as 0 because we want no change in the columns. The height and width are optional, so there's no need to change it. Now let's see what happens when we go with this value. If you notice, week 1, it returns the value of week 1 over here because it is exactly one place away from the main reference, which is week 1. Now for week 2, the reference remains the same, but the only thing that changes is the value of this cell, which is number 2, which means with reference to this, the second row is week 2, and hence it returns the value of week 2. The same applies for total sales. The reference remains total sales, and the only thing that changes are the values of these cells: total profit and total revenue. The last step present here is to link all this table, the value from the table, to a specific chart. But before that, if you notice, the scroll bar changes only the value of the first row. For week 1, it returns this value. The week 2 gets pushed on top. Week 3, 4, and 5. So what we need to do is create a chart with only these cells as a reference. So what we do is select the headers and the first value. Now in the insert function, you can either choose recommended charts or something of your own choice. In this case, I have chosen line. Selected this. Once you select this, you will get this chart. Now over here you can go to this function and change the kind of theme or the kind of style you would like for your chart. I like to keep it simple, so I just went with this. Now once you create this chart, you will get the value for sales, profit and revenue with respect to week 1. And as you go to week 2, the header changes along with the values.
Now the second part of the dashboard includes specific tag, which is category wise sales per week. Now we have done this by creating a pivot table from transactions table. Now creating pivot table is very simple. We select the whole table by clicking Ctrl A. We go to the pivot table option from insert part of the ribbon. Now what we can do here is create a pivot table in the existing worksheet or in a brand new worksheet. Now I have selected a new worksheet. Then just by clicking on OK, once you click OK, it will take you directly to the next sheet, a fresh sheet. This is where our pivot table got created. Now once you select this sheet for creating a pivot table, you will get this pivot table fields option. Since we want category wise sales, I have selected categories in the rows, and this will give me all the categories present in the transaction table. Now since we want sales, profit and revenue per category, I have selected the value of sales, profit and revenue in the value function, and you can again put the same values in the column function. In the filter function, I have selected week because we wanted weekly data for all the categories. Now once you create this specific pivot table, to make the chart more dynamic, we create two slicers. To make a slicer, put a cursor inside the pivot table, go to insert function, you will see a slicer option. In this we want for each week and category, select week and category. Now select OK. On doing that, you will get these two specific slicers. Now we need to create a chart which is linked to a specific pivot table here. include all this, including the category. So what we do is same as the previous chart. You select the part you want to include, go to the insert function. Now here I have chosen the horizontal column. Now this what I have selected. On selecting this, you will get the same thing. You get the category wise sales, profit and revenue. Now the last part of dashboard is top 5 products by revenue. Now here we have to identify the products which are providing highest revenue for this shop. Here we use the pivot table. The steps are same as the previous one. The transaction table, we select the whole table, include a pivot table and select a new sheet for it. Now in order to create this, we put product name in rows and sales, revenue, profit in value function, and in the filter part we put weeks and category. Now next step is to go to the filter option, go to the value filters, go to top 10 and here we are looking for only top 5, so we select 5 here. We want revenue, so we select by total revenue, click on OK. Now you will get the value of top 5 revenue product of all categories. Now once this is done, we can add a slicer to this table here. Instead of adding a slicer, we already have a slicer here for weeks. All we have to do here is right click, go to report connection. Now you can notice that it is only connected to the pivot table 1 and this is pivot table 1. If you select this, you have to select for pivot table 2 also. That means when we select 1, the value changes here too. Now we have finally copied all the charts and slicers to the dashboard chart, to dashboard sheet. Then you notice, since we have connected week slicer to both the table, we will select week 1, changes for both the values. Here we have sales, revenue by category. For soft drink, we are having this much sales, revenue and profit. Same for the product, this is product wise and this is category wise. If you want for a specific category, let's say for soft drink, this specific table will change. In this you will notice that we are getting the total revenue, total profit and total sales only for soft drink. This specific slicer is connected only to second pivot table, so it won't return the value of first one. So we are changing the value for this chart. The last chart here is of weekly sales and revenue of all the products in all the categories. So for week 1, you can notice the value changes as the scroll bar changes. Thank you.